All right, so we're starting our podcast today, Brockton to Beacon Hill, and I have a very special guest. And I would like you to talk about yourself, Ash. And I'm not going to attempt to say your last name because I probably don't even know how to say your first name. So start by introducing yourself. Let us know who you are and what your assignment has been with the office, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome, thank you. So my name is Aashish Krishna, and I am an undergraduate student at University of Massachusetts, Boston. I'm currently majoring in economics, minoring in public policy. So this work opportunity at Rita Mendes' office is perfect, where both my areas of studies meet. And so far at the State House, my work has mainly been on AI research and responsible use of AI. And I have been tasked to come up with a proposal for AI regulations for the state of Massachusetts, which I'm very excited to discuss about with the representative.
And that is a huge, huge topic because I feel like legislation is always behind technology. We'll always catch up. So there's a lot more that we can be doing, that we should be doing, and that we must be doing. But it always seems like that technology finds a way to be so much more advanced. And it takes us time to even understand what is going on out there and what the danger is. And so this is why I think it's just so crucial. And now you have a presentation for us that I love to hear. It's so many great stuff, but it's also so many concerning stuff that we should really be aware. And it's up to us at the legislature to be aware of these things and to come up with regulations to protect, especially the younger generation, that they're so much more advanced with technology. I'm here just still trying to play with the Zoom and trying to make everything work. And the younger population is just so much ahead in advance. So this is why I think this whole proposal and your research and everything that you've been doing at the State House is so crucial. So you ready to begin?
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Let me just share the screen, and that way you'll be able to start talking about your research and all the amazing stuff that you've been learning and doing and working with. And then you can also tell us your next projects. What have you been up to? Because you're going to be finishing your semester and
Exactly.
doing amazing stuff. We love to hear all about it. But
Awesome.
so
All
let's
right.
begin. Let's talk about AI. So what have you learned?
So, well, my presentation is about regulating generative AI in Massachusetts. So here at the introduction, we could see, we talk about artificial intelligence technologies as they continue to advance in a rapid pace, just like you said earlier. And it's so hard to catch up and regulate them at the same pace. So today we'll pretty much look into regulation of content of generative AI and morely focus into deepfakes and and uh, basically generative AI. And our approach to this legislation is compromised from the European Union's AI Act, which is one of the biggest regulators in the world, and they just came up with this Artificial Intelligence Act to regulate AI, and we're going to look into that.
And I think
So,
this is so important because here in the United States, apparently you looked it through other states, and the regulation from the European Union so far is what it's been most advanced to this point. So it was interesting that you had to look out of the United States, outside of our country, to see what other countries are doing, what other places are doing, because we're all playing catch up. We're all trying to understand how to properly address making sure that people are using technology, but also in a safe manner, in a legal manner, in a way that it's not causing more harm, which it was not what it was intended for. It was intended to do great things, but in the wrong hands, it can do terrible things. So it's interesting that you had to even look beyond the United States to do that. So, all
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, the European Union, they have been working on this act for a long time, and though we have a few legislations in the US and different states passed and some of them enacted, like California, Colorado, Texas, there is nothing as complex and comprehensive as the one in Europe. So let's look at the overview of generative AI. So what is generative AI? So this refers to a subset of artificial intelligence technologies that have the ability to create new context autonomously. These can be generated. These are contents like images, text, audio, and other forms of data that pretty much like mimic human-like behavior. So applications of generative AI. Gen AI has a wide range of applications in different industries. It goes from like art design to all the way to finance and other complex industries. So you can see the use of AI in industries like movies. Like right now, the CGI they are really developing AI to make better CGIs for movies. And there's also a big concern of this replacing people's jobs in a lot of different sectors.
Yes, I do think that AI really helps in different industries, but as to replacing the human piece of aspect, I think it's going to be a long way because I do know in politics or in judicial to write briefs and to write speech, sometimes it seems like the technology makes up what you want to hear and convey the message. So y'all will always, at least at this point, need that human being to fact check and making sure that the information and that the cases and that the things that it's cited to is actually there, that it's not just somehow made up. So I also feel that it's going to be there's a scare that yes, it may be getting rid of some jobs, but I think it's going to be a long way, and we're always going to need the actual human being, the person, to go through and check the information, at least while the technology is still being developed. So I'm thinking it's still going to be a long way, but it's definitely a different way to when you're going to college to prepare the next generation of people that are going to come to the workforce to make sure that they have the qualifications to go beyond the technology and to understand the technology and to make sure that the technology is being used for our benefits. And I do think that we're always going to need, maybe in a different way, but industries will still be needing the human being, the person to vet it, to check, and to making sure that technology is working how it's supposed to be. So hopeful that it's going to change, but not completely eliminate. But yeah, this
On the contrary, we can also see that it will bring in a lot of new jobs, like various jobs related to AI. But that again will require a lot of human training, and all the industries will have to start training people with all the new skills that will be required for these new jobs created by AI.
The mechanics, before it was just like working with the cars, not much more involved. Now there's so much technology involved in the new cars. And so just being a mechanic, you need to know so much about computers and the system there, because now everything is just it changed so much the field. So yeah, it'll definitely require a lot of training, but
I think this is like we're in the time where it's kind of like the revolutionary stage of the world when it comes to AI, because this is, I feel like, the period when back when the internet was first introduced and World Wide Web, people just thought, what is this new thing? Nobody's gonna ever use it. And then here we are in a day and age where without the internet, we possibly couldn't do most of our daily jobs.
Yes. So I do think we touch a little bit on the benefits of AI. Do you want to address a little bit of the risks?
Yeah,
We touched a little on it, but maybe go a little bit deeper into some of the risks
sorry.
of AI. Yes.
Yeah, so there's potential for misuse, such as creating deepfake videos for deceptive purposes. We will see more realistic scenarios of this case going forward. And there's also ethical concerns related to copyright infringement and intellectual property rights. So which basically means there's concerns of people trying to generate from AI the work of real people doing work, for example, books and music. We've seen this happen lately, where people use AI to mimic other artists and create their own music, but in the voice of the artist. So that's another risk. And there's always the risk to privacy and security, particularly when generating synthetic data with personal information. So there's always risk for,
The
people. Yeah, go ahead.
the deep fake is so real that it's scary. Even in the presidential primary election just this year, that there was a robocall pretending to be President Biden saying, telling people not to bother to go vote because the primary wasn't the real election, that the general, and it was just so concerning. So that could go both ways. Maybe some politician that is running for office, maybe they did say whatever it is that they said, but then it's backfired. They could say, oh no, that wasn't me, that was deep fake, I never said that. And the opposite could be that they definitely did not say it, but then it comes out if it was them and their voice, and then now they're spending that time in their campaign trying to prove that no, that wasn't them, they never said that. So it could go both ways. So that is very concerning. That's one of the things that I've been watching and looking and seeing, and it looks so real. And other people are using it to say a family member was kidnapped and then they need money and they're at risk, and then using it to pretend to be that person asking for help, and then the other family member ends up paying the hostage. So it just gets to be criminal, and people get creative, and it gets to be worse, and there's no limit unless we really have our tools and resources to be able to identify where these people, where's that's coming from and who's doing that, which is super hard to identify because we don't even know if they're in the country. Where are they, and how is that is being done? But I've seen terrible stories already, and this is pretty new technology, and it's just already been so concerning. So yes, definitely something to.
Even more concerning by the pace of it develops every single day, It's pretty scary.
Yes. So how are we doing in Massachusetts? How we feel our laws is so far, and
So in Massachusetts, this is an interesting thing that I was going to talk about later, but I'm just going to bring it up really quick, is that we actually have a bill that's proposed, and it's written by AI. It's a bill to regulate ChatGPT, but it's written by ChatGPT. So it's really interesting. We'll look into that later on. But in Massachusetts, well, we're known for the vibrant tech industry and academic institutions. We have so many universities in this state alone, and it's definitely a hub for AI innovation and research. So generative AI technologies are increasingly being developed and deployed across various sectors in the state. Especially, I'm not sure if you've seen, but there's this company called Boston Dynamics, and they work on robots. And I think just last week, I saw they were at the State House with I think it was like a dog, but a robot, and they were playing around with it. If it's just mind blowing, honestly, to see the developments and how forward they've come with AI robots.
so I must say I took a tour at their facility, and they let me play with the robot dogs. I was able to play with it, and there was robots all over the place, and it was just an amazing place to be. So I absolutely know about them. They're doing phenomenal work, and it's amazing to see all the great things they're doing with their robot. They're really the number one. They're really awesome. So yes, Massachusetts, we are the right place to be able to come up with these regulations and be ahead of the things. I don't know if we're really ahead, because it just seems like technology is always going to be ahead and we're always playing catch up. But the faster that we can get this done, the more, the better it is for our society, for people to be safe, and for people to know there's consequences. They can't just be doing this stuff thinking that it's a joke, that has real life consequences, and there should be punishments for that, and ways to identify who's doing it, and have the technology in place to actually identify that. So yes. So we've been talking quite a bit about the concerns. So I think that really does addresses a little bit why it's so crucial that we regulate AI. And if you want to,
Yeah. So we definitely have a need for regulation in AI. So the rapid advancement of generative AI necessitates proactive regulatory measures to ensure its responsible and ethical use. And regulation can mitigate risks associated with AI misinformation, privacy violations, and other potential harms, like we talked about. And we need to establish clear guidelines so we can foster innovation while still safeguarding the interests of consumers and business and society as a whole.
yes, and then the deep fake concerns we addressed a little bit regarding the manipulation of political speeches and in elections, but that to me is scary.
So yeah, this is where it gets pretty scary. You're not wrong. So let's see a couple examples of the deepfake
yes.
controversies that's happening around the world. So one of them is it's in manipulation of the political speeches. So in 2019, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, one of her videos was surfaced on the internet where she seemed to be slurring her words, or she seemed pretty intoxicated, which turned out to be AI, and that was a really wake up call for regulation. Sorry, and we can also see this happen with election interference. So in 2019, presidential election in Gabon, and a deepfake video emerged showing the current president delivering her speech after suffering a stroke. So this is where election interference through AI can be dangerous, because this video turned out to be AI, and it falsely promoted that the president is in good health while he was still in the hospital. And in India too, we see a lot of deep fakes, false information going around, and targeting the opposition parties, and creating deepfake videos to kind of throw off the public, and especially in countries where, especially like third world countries, this is a really dangerous thing, because people don't have access to a lot of things, and if they just see a video pop up of the opposition party, it's more than likely that they will end up believing that it's true, and that can definitely interfere with the elections.
That is very true, because here in the United States, I think that people, they're savvy enough to go dig a little bit deeper, and they're hearing so much about AI and deep fake that maybe if it's so unbelievable, they'll second guess and they'll question it. They'll probably dig a little bit deeper. But some third world countries, where you see the person, you hear the person, it sounds like the person, it looks like the person. Why is it not the person? Now you're trying to make me believe that you never said that, when I'm clearly seeing that it's you, and it's you. So it becomes really that that concern, and that could completely change the result of an election. It completely change. It just can make the whole society be rebellions against whatever it is that. So it's very easy for this technology to fall in the wrong hands and to really make a huge mess out of that country and that society. So I think it's also our responsibility in the United States to be mindful of what is going on in other countries and to ensure that democracy prevails. And we see the war and fights, but there's also another war happening in technology. And that's also another way to look at it, that we need to also have that responsibility, mindful that we need to ensure that other countries are able to be safe and to have a democracy and to be able to not be misled. And I don't know how we can do that, but it's very concerning of all
Yeah,
the
just to add on to the election interference controversies, right? So in Slovakia, we actually see how it actually a deepfake audio. So this was during their previous elections, and it was a very it was a very close election. It was pretty much equally distributed, and so this was between a pro Russia candidate and a pro Western country candidate in Slovakia, and a deepfake audio circulated regarding the pro Western candidate, and that actually turned the election where the pro-Russian candidate won the election marginally, and people say that that audio had to do a lot with the turn in favor of the election.
Exactly. Right on point. So we this is just the beginning. So we definitely need to understand this technology now and see how we can address it right away.
Yeah. So we could so when we look at the AI election, so basically how AI can be involved in elections. So there's definitely a risk reward dynamic where it can be beneficial, and it can reduce campaign costs through targeted advertising, and also poses risks, including spread of misinformation, like we talked about, which could influence election outcomes. And there's deepfake concerns, which we just talked about in Slovakia, and there's also misinformation tactics, like we addressed the situation in India. So there are some measures we can take against. I'm so sorry, my throat is giving me a hard time.
This
So
weather is changing all the time, so I think we all during this time of the year all get a little bit of it changes every 5 minutes. It could be a nice day out now, and then once you get out, it's already cold and windy and rain today, and yeah, we're not snowing, so we're happy.
getting used to the Massachusetts weather is definitely not
And
an
you're
easy.
from India, so it's nice and warm. So you don't
I
have
know.
fluctuating
Yeah.
weather. It's just like in Brazil, and nice and warm as well. So it's I've been
Mhm.
here for almost 30 years and I'm still trying to get used to it. So
Well, that tells me I'll take longer time.
yes. It's in our DNA. I don't think it ever happens, but
Well, let's just hope so.
so let's talk about some of the regulations as you were saying. I know at this point it's very weak, but where are we in light of all this technology and the concerns? So how are we doing so far?
So some states have enacted and proposed AI-related laws, particularly regarding elections, because everybody's worried about it and don't want it to affect our elections, which already is so tense in the United States. And there's also a lot of corporate initiatives. AI companies have pledged to combat AI's potential negative impacts on elections, acknowledging their responsibility in preventing the spread of misinformation. And there's also concerns about accountability. So there's a debate regarding who's responsible, right? So uh, there are some people who are saying the AI companies who create these platforms should be held responsible for the spread of misinformation. Then there's the other half of people who think the social media platforms who facilitate these disinformation, they think that they should be the ones held accountable. So it's still an ongoing debate. We could always try to point it to both of them and say you share the responsibilities of what's on your platform and what you create. So that's a debate that's still ongoing.
And I think that's going to be a very long debate because that's a very hard question. I do think that both would share the responsibility, like you said, because the AI companies, when they are still developing the software, I think they're trying to beat the other company, beat the competition. So whoever comes up with this stuff the faster is probably going to be the one dominated the market. But on the other hand, they're not worried as much with the concerns, with the issues, with the ethics, with the responsibilities, and all the things that it's involved to create this software in a safe manner. And then the social media companies, the platforms, they're like, well, whoever's putting this stuff, they are the ones responsible. We can't be the ones regulating everything that it's on that platform, but it is because they're putting information out there, and they're putting information out there as if it's true and reliable. And now that information that it's being put on, because they have ways that on your feed you'll be seeing that stuff. So however the algorithm and the crazy words, they'll find ways, and they'll start feeding in to that particular demographics of people of that information. So that's completely can manipulate with an election, as if it's a close call, a close election. They'll be able to just start seeing all that information. If they're thinking it's all true, people are not going to take the time to fact check everything, to look and so they both share responsibilities. It has to be that way.
The social media platforms, they're usually pretty quick to address this freedom of speech whenever it benefits them. So it's going to be a big debate for sure.
So what is this Gemini?
So Gemini, really controversial. So it's Gemini is Google's AI model. It's Google's Chat GPT, if you want to put it that way. So it's a creation of Google, an AI model designed for various tasks, including generating images and text. So they had to address some accuracy issues. So despite its amazing capabilities of being a great chatbot, Gemini faced criticism for generating inaccurate images, indicating a gap between intended output and actual results. So this was a really controversial thing because once it was released, so people started to play with it as right now people do with every new AI that comes out. So in Gemini, the allegations were of racial bias initially, where individuals suggested skewed representation in the generated content. So one of them was like falsifying historical figures of race. So basically, I think somebody tried to ask Gemini to generate a picture of the founding fathers of America, and it only would generate images of people of color, which is factually wrong when it comes to founding fathers. And there's also there was political bias, and there seemed to be allegations of Gemini pushing a woke agenda on its users. So if you would ask Gemini regarding anything related to wokeness, it would kind of push the agenda on you rather than take a neutral stand. So
And we're talking about Google, which is we're all used to just go on Google and search everything and write everything, and then it comes up a whole bunch of information on that topic. So how is this different than what we've been doing all along, just doing the Google search and then also coming up with all that information on that topic? How is this Gemini project different than what we've been doing so far with all the Google search that we do every single hour of the day because we ask Google everything.
Yeah, that's an excellent question because Google, as we know it, is supposed to be a search engine. We go in there, just ask it whatever we want to know in our daily lives, and it spits out a bunch of links, answers, and we kind of surf our way into the answer we're trying to look for. So Gemini, it kind of narrows down the process to where you don't have to look for the stuff. It just spits out what it thinks is the best response for your question.
And that is based whoever the creator of that software is. So that is based on one person's or a group of people's agenda towards what they feel. So that's been manipulated because when you just do a Google search, then you have to go through the steps of reading it, see how relevant it is to your topic, and go through it, and then you compile all that information to make your own and your message and what you want to come out of that research. But what we're seeing with the Gemini, it gives you that answer, supposedly does it for you, but it's not doing such a great job as we see it because
That
it's not factually correct. And it has the race bias, it has a whole bunch of issues attached to it. And Google is this big company that we think knows everything. Like we just Google for everything. And to get it so wrong it just shows us how concerning this whole thing is because we trust Google when we do our Google search because that's how we've been doing all along. But now when it comes to AI, not even Google can get it right. So it's like
No, Google has been in a lot of hot water when it comes to their AI stuff because a long before Gemini, Google came up with Google Photos, something I still use today. And so in Google Photos, when they first came up with it, they used AI to do facial recognition. So if you have a bunch of pictures in your gallery, it will recognize the faces and it will categorize people for you. So if you want pictures of your dog, it will show you all the pictures of your dog in your gallery. So it kind of segregates pictures uh, through individual personalities. And they were in hot water for this because there's a situation called the gorilla situation. It was a big controversy where all the people of color in Google Photos, they got categorized as gorillas, which was really concerning, really wrong, and Google had a long time to fix that and make it right. And now here we are with Gemini, and it's the total opposite. It just refuses to generate images of white people. So they do have a lot of problems going on in Google that they need to address. And like you said, the creators they have the freedom of implementing their agenda on the AI model. So that needs to change. I think the CEO of Google and the parent company Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, he came out and addressed the concerns relating Gemini, where he said it's totally unacceptable and they're going to fix it. So we're looking forward for them to fix it, as even right now, Gemini does not generate any pictures, as they're still working on it.
they have a lot of work ahead of them. So I do think we touch quite a bit on the concerns and the misinformation and the risks. And how can we prevent these stereotypes and biases that we're seeing in this technology? How can we do that?
So, firstly, we could do that by reinforcement learning from human feedback. You touched on that earlier a little bit, saying human feedback is really important. So implementing a system where humans provide feedbacks on models and refine AI's understanding and reduce bias. So that would definitely, that means humans should address to the AI on not not making biases because of stereotypes or to avoid stereotypes. And we could also do curriculum changes, so altering the training data our curriculum to expose the model to diverse perspectives can mitigate biases. So we need to make sure it's exposed to all or most of the data out there so it can mitigate bias. And also, we should encourage AI models to adhere to principles against biases and discrimination aids in promoting fairness and accuracy. Also, prompt transformation. So this is where if you type, so when you ask the AI something, or if you have to generate a picture of a dog, that's the prompt, right? So rewriting prompts before inputting them into the AI model allows for controlling the information and potentially mitigating biased outputs. So if the AI companies, they do prompt transformation where they rewrite the prompts once they receive it before it's actually gone to the AI, that could help mitigate a lot of stereotype biases.
Mm. Now let's talk about the European Union Act, the
Yeah.
AI Act, because that is intro. We said you're trying to convince us that they're doing better. So what are they doing, like, and to address these types of concerns? How are they advanced, at least in their regulations, and attempting to?
Yeah, so they are, I would start with saying it's not perfect, obviously. A lot of companies, AI companies, stakeholders are not really very much impressed with it, but it still comes with a very strong framework that we take into consideration for our proposal. So let's look into the key principles of the EU AI Act. Number one is prohibition of certain AI practices. So this is AI systems designed to manipulate human behavior or to exploit vulnerabilities such as social scoring systems, like in China, which is prohibited. So we're not going to allow anything like a social scoring system that China has been doing, and a lot of people have a lot of concerns, but they get to do what they don't want, I guess. And we also look into high-risk AI regulation. So high-risk AI systems must undergo conformity assessments, adhere transparency and documentation obligations. So high-risk AI systems are basically generative AI, like chatbots, deepfakes, like ChatGPT and Gemini. They all fall under the high-risk AI. And looking into transparency and accountability, it's so this includes requirements for clear documentation, traceability, and human oversight in deployment of AI systems. And then there's the regulatory oversight and enforcement mechanisms, which basically states that we need regulatory bodies to enforce these regulations on AI companies before they're deployed.
I feel that this is so much. It's just like a lot of work. So, how can we adapt these principles here in Massachusetts? Because I do understand we do have a pending bill on deep fake, and then there's there's bills pending in the legislature that we absolutely are aware and see and know that this is a problem, and how can we do better? How can we address it? So what have you found so far how we're doing in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so far I think we need to adapt some of the basic, very important principles standard for Massachusetts. So one of them, number one, would be prohibition of harmful AI practices, just like the first principle states of the EU AI Act. So no social scoring systems, they should be prohibited, and are taking are storing data biometrics of individuals, and also malicious purposes such as defamation, fraud, and manipulation. These are all prohibited. And number two would be identification of high-risk generative AI systems. So similar to EU, we should regulate to identify and define high-risk generative AI systems so we can categorize them and regulate them accordingly. And next, we look into transparency and accountability requirements. This may involve providing clear documentation on training data, algorithms used, and potential biases for or limitations for AI systems. And then obviously we do need a regulatory oversight and enforcement. So we need a regulation body assigned by the government or attorney general to look over or enforce the regulations for AI.
A lot of work that we have to do here. And that
Yeah.
in other states too, and in other countries, we're really just scratching the surface here today.
Mhm.
This is a topic that we could be here for weeks just talking about this, and we still would not
Yeah.
be done. This is just so much. So really today, it's just this like brief overview of all
Mhm.
the issues, the concerns, and the danger. Because once we identify that, then we know our challenges and what we need to address, and how can we do that in a safer manner, but also as quicker and as fast as we can. Because if we just keep on playing catch up with the law, then we're all in trouble. So it's important to do this study and to look deep so that we can identify and see what the danger is and how society is at risk, and address it immediately as quickly as we can.
Yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. And also the collaboration with stakeholders is a really important thing while regulating AI, because we always need the input of the industry. We need input from the stakeholders, so we don't hinder innovation. We actually try to foster innovation rather than regulate them so much that they don't want to be innovative anymore. So that's a really important thing, is collaborating with stakeholders.
Definitely. And listening sessions and going to our schools and going to the professions and going to different industries, and just making sure that technology can still be relevant. Because if you regulate so much to the point that you can't really do anything, because then what counts as deep fake? Is it all bad, or the photoshops and the things maybe you're trying to do for your marketing? So where's the line that it would still be allowed in order to be able to make your work easier and make technology work for you and make it quicker and faster, but also safer? So it is important, because otherwise we'll have like a whole bunch of teenagers with the TikTok and being banned. So it gets concerning when you, because technology is part of our lives. It is part of who we are. We all have our phones. We all have our technology with us, and we're all using all the time. So it's part of how we conduct ourselves. So just take it away from us and not taking the time to hear from the community and people in the society and understand how all of that plays a crucial role in people's lives, it would also be another mistake. So that just
Yeah.
adds up another
Also,
layer of concern of how a situation this is, like how we need to make sure we get this right. And it's hard to get it right the first time unless we take the time to hear from people.
yeah, and I think we need to make sure it doesn't hinder innovation, because that might also lead into a monopoly in the AI industry, because that will stop or demotivate all the startup companies to, start working on AI due to all these horrendous AI regulations that would impact them. So I think that's really important that we keep an eye on that.
Yes. And what about the prohibition of harmful applications? You want to talk a
Yeah,
little?
so absolutely. So this is the my proposal idea for or what I like to call the Generative AI Regulation Act. So I kind of have divided it into four sections. So the first section would be prohibition of harmful applications. So under this, we see the Deepfake Prohibition Act, which explicitly prohibits the creation, distribution, and dissemination of deepfake content intended to deceive or harm individuals of our society. So there will be penalties for violating this law, and which could include fines, imprisonment, or both, or depending on the depth of the violation. And the other one would be Forgery Prevention Act. So this would make it illegal to generate fake documents, credentials, or other falsifying materials using AI. And again, it would have severe legal consequences if not followed. And the next section is high risk generative AI systems regulation. So in this, we see the first act, which is High Risk AI Identification and Oversight Act. So this outlines the criteria for identifying high-risk generative AI systems and establishing a regulatory framework for their oversight. So this applies to all the Gen AI, like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Sora. All these systems fall under this high-risk category. And so the preventive measures for high-risk AI Development Act, AI Deployment Act. Under this legislation, developers of high-risk AI systems must obtain prior approval for regulatory authorities before deploying their systems. And this will ensure the safeguards are in place to mitigate potential risks to society. And in the third section, we will see
accountability. That is big, because
Mhm.
we must have transparency in this area. So yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
So transparency is definitely huge. So the first act would be AI Transparency and Documentation Act. So this law would mandate developers to maintain clear documentation on data sources, algorithms, and methodologies used in the training and deployment of their Gen AI softwares. And it also requires the provision of accessible and understandable explanations of how AI content was created. So I think this is one of the most important things we need.
I think so too. So basically, if something was created with an AI, will be like a disclosure that says this is AI generated. Would that be?
Yeah. Well, that is, I think it would be like, it would come under the AI Content Verification Act. So this is where it requires platforms and users to implement mechanisms to verify the authenticity of AI generated content. So this is where you would require a watermark or digital signatures where it says this content is AI generated. And yeah, that's the most important thing to resolve all these deepfake concerns we're seeing nationwide.
The problem is sometimes the fine line is so small that people, when they're on their social media, they go through the slides and the feeds and so quickly that it's like second, there's not even milliseconds. It's just like very fast that they're just going through that. So it really takes that training for people to be more mindful, to be looking for these signs, because even if the regulation is there, even if they're putting in there, these companies are so clever that they do it like so small and such a fine line that when you're just going it through it so quickly, because everything just happens so fast, you're not looking and you're not paying attention, you're not mindful of these smaller details, and it just takes up our responsibilities too, to look at that and to train for that, and to let our kids know that this is how, when you cite your work, when you're doing you have to look, it's credible, and you're looking for that source. I think it's similar here too, that you have to be looking for that too, because we also have our own share of responsibilities as consumer of these content to not be misled, to also be looking to see if the information is credible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is where the social media platforms are held or should be held responsible, because one of the things or one of the platforms is X, or formerly known as Twitter. I think they do a really good work in this problem that you just addressed. Is what they do is they have this thing called readers notes. So any post you see, if it's AI generated, Twitter actually informs you below the post saying this content is actually AI generated, and it will have that note up there. So I think all social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, others should definitely implement the same tactics to tackle this misinformation problem with AI. And next, we look at the regulation to eliminate AI bias. Definitely important because we looked at the problems with Gemini. So this law mandates the development and implementation of algorithms and practices aimed at detecting and mitigating bias in generative AI systems. So this requires regular audits and assessments to ensure that AI technologies do not perpetuate existing biases based on factors such as race, gender, socioeconomic status, and nationality, and other stuff like that.
That can only happen if who has a seat at the table can reflect the different backgrounds and race and color and gender. Because other than that, it's just very hard to eliminate the AI bias if the people that are generating this technology if they don't come from those different backgrounds, and if they don't have those lived experiences, is much harder. So the more we can train professionals and people to be able to have a seat at the table and to be able to collaborate as this technology is forming and it's being developed and it's being put out there in society, that we must find a way to make sure that all these voices are being heard. Whether it's the stakeholders, the listening sessions, and how we're making sure that we're validating all of that information and put it in the system to reflect an outcome that it's not as horrendous as we've seen so far, and it's a big challenge and a big task. So
yeah, hopefully we'll see the first tackle of that problem through Google, and Gemini will see what they do. All right, so connection to the EU AI Act. So I think by aligning our regulations with the EU AI Act, we promote consistency and interoperability in AI governance. So this is very important, so we could actually align our regulations globally, as it would benefit the AI developers if globally we all kind of align on the same regulations, so they don't have to worry about different countries, different regulations. I think that's why it would be really helpful to have a connection to the EU AI Act.
And that makes sense because technology and internet and social media, it does not really have a border or a line that it's only in the United States. We're all connected. We're all globally connected. So if it's the laws that globally it applies, no matter where, under which basement or whichever place the person is that is causing the act and is breaking the law, and it's creating all these, because they're always going to find a country, a place where those laws do not apply. So instead of being created here in the United States, where we're doing all this work that we're trying to make it better, or an EU where they're like trying to work on this, but they're like, we'll send it to another place where we could still be doing all this crazy stuff and nothing can happen because your laws will not be applying to me here, but it will be impacting you, it will be affecting you wherever you are. So we're still going to be trying to interfere with your laws there, with your elections in the United States or other parts of the countries and globe, but we won't have any of the punishments attached to it. So this is much bigger. I don't even know where to begin, but it's a huge issue. We're looking at Massachusetts. How can we do better in Massachusetts? But on the other hand, how is this we're all connected?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up because kind of related to that, but on a different, not related to AI. It's basically, so what's happening in India is the government is trying to ask WhatsApp, the chatting app, to decrypt all their messages to the government, which is, I think, pretty or on a world standard, it's pretty unacceptable because it has privacy concerns, but they want to decrypt those and have it available for the government to their stand on it is to avoid terrorism and like people planning for terrorism. But WhatsApp has stated that if they do regulate for decrypting those messages, they will have to pull out of India. So we'll have to see what happens on that court.
It is so much, and I wish we could go deeper to all of these different topics because it's so amazing, it's so concerning and scary at the same time. So talk about this bill that is pending here in Massachusetts.
So this bill S2539, so this is an act relative to cybersecurity and AI. So I just wanted to talk about this bill because I feel like we're touching a similar subject. I just wanted to talk about how it might differ from what we just proposed. So this bill is actually rewritten from the bill S31, which is an act for regulating ChatGPT and other chatbots. And that was the act that I was telling you earlier. It was actually generated by ChatGPT. So that's an interesting approach, I would say. uh, so yeah, this bill basically aims to protect Massachusetts residents from its potential threats posed by foreign adversaries using social media, and to enhance electronic security for specific procurements involving cybersecurity equipment. So it's kind of a broader look into this problem, and they also touch on topics for with cybersecurity. But here we'll see the differences between Gen AI Regulation Act and the bill 2539. So the proposed Gen AI regulation focuses specifically on addressing deepfakes, fake document generation, bias mitigation, and transparency with generative AI. And like I said earlier, the bill 2539 touches more broadly on the subject, but not as specific to as we are looking. So let's look into the benefits of the act that was proposed is protection of individuals and rights and privacy, promotion of ethical innovation, and enhancement of public trust in AI technologies, alignment with international standards, like we talked about, being aligned with globally in regulations with EU and other countries, and mitigation of AI bias and protection against misinformation and manipulation. I think we touched on all these earlier. This is just kind of like a summary of it.
And we know it's really much needed because so much work that, like I said, we're really the challenges is huge, especially because it's not just bound by here in Massachusetts, but globally, and how this global society will all being affected in the same way. So yeah, the challenges is really for us legislators to know we have this responsibility to keep the society safe and the communities to be aware about the concerns and issues, but how do we address it? How can we make these laws uniform? Because each country will have its own piece of it that they'll agree or not agree, or that they think it should be happening, or no, this is going beyond of what we can, what we should, and all of that. So it's all mind blowing, but it really is very important conversation because it alerts us, it tells us what we're dealing with and what we're getting into, all this whole technology, how it's great, but we want to make sure that we're safe and that we're using it the right way and using for the benefit of society, not to harm, not to overturn elections, not to get dictatorship, and whoever has access to this technology will be able to manipulate the message to whatever they want to achieve the ultimate goal at that time. So
Almost a superpower you don't want anybody to have.
yes, it's pretty much that superpower because in the wrong hands, um, for all this technology, we definitely need to make sure that we address it right away and we do what we can. Even if we have to start here in Massachusetts, start in other states, and start getting the samples that we're getting from the European Act, whatever we can do, we must start somewhere. And we're not gonna get it right, but we're perfecting as we go. And we keep at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to talk about a little bit about the challenges and considerations that comes with regulating AI. I think we touched on balancing innovation with regulation and how it might affect startups and basically stifle innovation if we over strictly regulate AI. And the other would be addressing enforcement and monitoring challenges. So enforcing regulations and monitoring compliance in the rapidly evolving field of AI presents significant challenges. This is exactly what you just said. It's just the speed of the AI technology evolving is really hard to catch up for the legislators on a daily basis. And we look into the ethical and legal considerations. So legal complexities, including jurisdictional issues and international cooperation, may arise in regulating generative AI technologies. And there's also challenges of ensuring inclusivity and equity. So this kind of talks about how it is essential to ensure that regulations do not disadvantage certain stakeholders, or there's no bias between stakeholders, just so we're not working towards the profit of just one company. And also adapting to technological advances. So regulations must be capable of accommodating emerging technologies and evolving threats in the field of generative AI, and stakeholder engagement and collaboration. So this, I think we touched on multiple times today, where the public engagement and stakeholders input is really integral to the development of effective socially responsible regulations for Gen AI. As without the stakeholders, we would be in a mess, and we would probably create more problems than solutions for the state.
The public input is huge because the public is using this technology every day. So taking the time to really have those listening sessions and having feedback and having people just being part of this process, because this is so much engaged in our lives and part of our lives, part of who we are, part of how we conduct businesses. So it's just been an impressive conversation. Something that I really know almost nothing about it, but at least I've learned so much today and with our time together, and it's just been amazing and all of our work. So what is next for you? So how do you see all of this? And
Well, for me, this was definitely one of the best experiences of my life, working at the state I was working for you, and especially researching on AI, because I do love AI and everything it has to offer. So it was a really fun experience. Going forward, I will be kind of pivoting into business school. So I am applying for business schools. So this fall, I will be going to where I do get accepted and choose to go. So that's kind of the next page of my life.
Congratulations. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you at the State House and all the amazing work that you did there. And as you can see, it's a crazy place, crazy building. There's a whole bunch of moving pieces and different things that happens at the same time. So your work was really your work. It was nothing that I gave it to you, and I was really just hoping and expecting that you'd be able to really do this research and come up with all of this amazing work, and also the challenges and how we can do better. So how can we make sure that going forward, we can ensure our laws reflect our beliefs and reflect what we care and our values and our system and our culture and our society, and how we make sure that our kids are safe and then our elections are safe, and that it was so timely because every time when you turn on the TV and all these different things happens, I knew you were right on it, that you're working on it. So it's a subject that we really just scratch the surface. There's so much to do. But I'm so happy that you join us. You're part of a team. But it goes by really fast. But
I just want to say I'm really grateful for all your insights, for me helping with this research, and also the opportunity to work at the State House. Really a once in a lifetime opportunity, at least for me, I'd say. And I know it was really an experiential or educational experience, where I got to see how everything works, how the policies are constructed, and I got to go to all interesting hearings and briefings, and especially the last week, the House session, which was all a great experience. So I really want to thank you for the opportunity.
good luck with your schools. Good luck with your studies. And thank you for accepting to put you on the spot and to have you talk about your research. But I really think this is the best way, because so much work gets done at the State House, and we need to let people know what is going on and how we're trying to address it. So it was so crucial. Thank you. Amazing job. And we'll definitely stay in touch. But
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
thank you,
you.
everybody who took the time to listen to our podcast today. We'll be back with some more amazing information for all your listeners. Bye.